Hey everybody, it's Chris. We're giving Adam the night off, right, Tani?
Yes, we'll let him slide tonight.
Yep, we're going to let him slide. I know he's not doing anything,
Right.
right? Because I know he is He is a lazy ass.
Yeah.
He's going to love hearing that. But this is the Two Beers and Two Lawyers podcast. I'm Chris Stone, and today what I'm going to do is we're going to get to know Tani.
Okay.
All right, better than just Tani the lawyer.
Right.
Right? Because
Okay.
you've really only been a lawyer for
5 years.
Five years.
Yeah. Yep. Well, 5.5 years now.
Going pretty quick, hasn't it?
It has. I know. It's a little scary. I'm no longer considered a new lawyer or a young lawyer. I really like that part.
The young lawyer?
Yeah, I'm a young lawyer.
So let's kind of backtrack a little bit. Okay. Let's go. We're not going to talk about Northern yet because I think you and I are kindred spirits in that respect.
Yes,
so
we
could talk about the Beagle and John and Tony's, and
yes.
But let's go back to like before you went to law school. So help me. You worked in Job and Family Services before you went to law school, right?
Yes.
So how long were you in Job and Family Services?
Altogether close to 15 years. I had I left in 98 and returned in 2007.
Okay.
So I did have a little bit of a hiatus from Job and Family Services.
Okay. So you took a little hiatus, but you had a total of 15 years there.
Pretty close.
Tell me about those 15 years. Like, what was it during those 15 years? What were some of the things that you did?
Well, basically, I was the eligibility determiner.
Okay, hang on 1 second.
Yeah.
Take a look. When you said that, did you see it? It went way up over my head.
Way up over your head.
So I'm going to say, bring it back down to dumb guy level, okay? What exactly does that mean, eligibility determiner?
I determined eligibility for the various public assistance programs like food stamps, cash assistance, all the Medicaid programs. Particularly, I did Medicaid for long-term care, passport, assisted living. So dealing more with the elderly, and which I love doing that part.
Right. So what were some of the biggest challenges you had in your time at Job and Family Services?
Probably one of the biggest challenges was, for me, it was kind of hard to see people that, worked hard all their lives. They built their little nest egg for retirement. And then some unfortunate thing happens, and, the husband or the wife ends up in a nursing home. And now they're basically losing what took them a lifetime to build. And it can be gone in just a matter of months for the nursing homes. And that was really tough for me to see. And then one day I had someone from an elder law attorney's office come in and apply for Medicaid, and they were able to protect assets through gifting and different planning strategies, so that people didn't lose everything. And kind of thought that was somewhat of an interesting approach. Never thought you could do that, because there's penalties for giving away all of your assets to just go on welfare. And so I guess that was something that I did not know you could do. And so I ended up actually leaving and going to work for this attorney, doing Medicaid applications all over the state for this attorney. And I learned more about Medicaid in those 2 years that I worked for this attorney than I think I ever did working for Job and Family Services.
So you left JFS. Mm-hmm. You saw that there were, is it fair to call it, some inequities?
Absolutely.
In especially in the area that you worked in with elder care and Medicare and Medicaid and all of those things, right?
Yes.
So then you took the job with a lawyer, and I'm guessing in that 2 years you had your eyes opened even more.
Absolutely.
Talk about that for me. That 2 year experience of just doing was it okay?
Just Medicaid, yeah.
I do not know the difference, and people are going to make fun of me. I really don't give a shit. Is it what was it? Was it Medicare or Medicaid?
Medicaid. And you know what? Most people get them confused. I did when I first started doing this. And someone told me if you think of Medicare as what you get from Social Security, but Medicaid is aid for the underprivileged, lower income,
Okay.
lower economic. So if you think of Medicaid as aid for more of it's a needs based program.
Okay, so aid is more for needs, care is more through Social Security.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Still clear as mud, but a little bit clear.
A little bit clear.
So talk about that 2 years with the lawyer. I don't, is it? I'm guessing it was probably somebody local because you were still living in.
Yeah,
Crawford
well,
County?
not super local. It was an attorney out of Knox County, so I drove
to
a
Mount
little
Vernon.
over, not quite to Mount Vernon. It was in the Centerburg area.
Okay.
And so I drove, about
You
an
drove
hour.
a piece.
But I drove all over the state. I think total, because I'll get kind of ahead of myself, but I ended up leaving him and opening up my own Medicaid consulting business. So, but during that time, I've been into probably at least 77 counties in the state of Ohio, at least once on a Medicaid application. And back then, they required a face-to-face interview. So you had to actually go in person to the Job and Family Services in the county where that person was at. And so the attorney that I worked with had clients all over the state. And so I drove wherever I needed to be. And so a lot of times if I could plan my day, maybe I'd have an application closer to Crawford County. And so I try to plan that like at the end of the day and then just come on home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Make your furthest drive first thing in the morning and you leave, and then but you work your way back home.
Yes. So, but yeah, I've, I think probably towards Ashtabula had been one of the furthest.
Oh, yeah.
I was
going to say either going clear up to northeast Ohio like Ashtabula, or going clear down, to that southwest part down by Cincinnati.
I've been to Cincinnati and some of the bigger cities that I was like, okay, I don't know where to park, I don't know where I'm going. Everything's so different.
You're like, what the hell am I doing here? Why the hell am I even trying?
Well, especially for being from a small town, it's just
it's an eye opener.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. I really did.
Absolutely. So those 2 years with that lawyer opened your eyes.
Yes.
From which side of it? From the legal side of it, or because you didn't go directly after those 2 years. You didn't go directly to law school. You started your own consulting business. So I'm guessing it opened your eyes a little bit more to the idea that, hey, I could make a business out of this.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And not so much the legal side, but you still got that experience.
Right. So, it was, I guess I've always enjoyed helping people, especially the elderly. I don't know, I have a very soft spot in my heart for the elderly. I have since I was a little kid. I don't know, I'm an only child. So, and where I grew up in Bucyrus on Prospect Street at that time, I actually had some elderly great aunts and great aunt and uncle at other places. And then I guess there was some other elderly people in town on our street that I thought we related to, but I later found out that we weren't related. I just thought all old people I was related to, I guess. But I always hung out with them. My the great aunt and uncle, she was blind and he was deaf. And so I would go and try to help read the newspaper to her. And I don't know, I always remember riding my little bike around their garage and they give me fudgesicles. And
who doesn't love fudgesicles?
Right.
So you opened your consulting business. How long did you have that for?
I opened that till about 2007, and which I enjoyed because I would work with various attorneys throughout the state, mainly Central Ohio. I actually worked with Rob Neff on a couple clients with him and some other attorneys here in town that I would do the Medicaid planning part. I just couldn't do, obviously, the legal part.
Right.
I always tried to make sure I aligned myself with an attorney because there is a very fine line on practicing law without a license, which is a huge no-no.
Right. I would think. I mean, unless you stayed at a Holiday Inn Express line.
Right. And actually, it's kind of funny that I did have a county Mercer County did file a complaint against me with the Supreme Court, tried to say I was practicing law without a license. Basically, it was a really nasty. They have state hearings, so if you apply for Medicaid and you disagree with their determination, like um, in this instance, they had tried to claim that the people, our client, could only keep 2 acres in their house. Well, the Medicaid rules say as long as the land is contingent, it's all exempt, as long as it's all connected with the house. Mm-hmm. And there was like 80 acres in this house. But all of a sudden they decided, you know what, we're just going to say that they can only keep 2 acres. It was ridiculous. So we had a hearing. They didn't come off real well at the hearing. The hearing officer, you could really tell, was quite annoyed with them. And but yeah, they said that I cross-examined their witnesses and just different things. And this actually was, the client was another attorney out of Grove City, was his client. And so I just, there again, hooked up with them and handled the Medicaid applications. But so it got dismissed. And again, at that time, and I still did it today, you don't have to be an attorney to be an authorized representative or to assist someone with applying for Medicaid or the state hearing. Like I said, it's still kind of a gray area. And
look, you don't want me helping with any of that stuff. I don't know what the hell it is. So I can't even tell you the difference between the two. Don't ask for my help.
Something I've been doing a long, long time. And then also in 2006, they came out with this Deficit Reduction Act. And it was a huge change in the Medicaid regulations and how the Medicaid planning and how it used to be done was way, way different. And it almost then at that point in time required an attorney setting up irrevocable trusts and doing some different things that, and after that happened, that I got turned in, I just thought, you know what, this isn't really worth me going to jail over. I'm not making that much money. Right. I love what I do, but I'm not doing that. And so that's when I went back into Crawford County Job and Family Services.
Okay. And so you were there, you went back from the consulting business into Job and Family Services. How long were you there before you decided, you know what, I think it's a good idea at midlife,
40 some years old,
to head on back to college and go to law school and to go to probably one of the toughest law schools in the state.
Yes.
At Ohio Northern.
Yes.
So like, what was that? I mean, were you, when did you go back? When did you go to law school?
I started law school the fall of 2011.
Okay. So you were in between 07, which was around 2006, was this Deficit
Reduction Act. Yep.
So there was about a 5-year window in there, and you had that hearing, and you're like, I don't want to go to jail.
Right.
And that problem, I'm guessing, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that little hearing started to maybe spark that curiosity.
I love doing the hearings. In fact, when I worked for that attorney, my supervisor, who was the one that initially came into my office when I was still a caseworker at Job and Family Services, and so he became my supervisor, and he pretty much initially did the hearings. Well, he let me do one and went with them, and it happened to be in Knox County, which, believe it or not, he worked for at one time, the Knox County Job and Family Services. So he knew the caseworkers. We had this hearing, and I can't even remember now the situation on that, but apparently I left the caseworker speechless, and when we left, he's like, I've never seen that caseworker speechless. I mean, he just was like, you nailed it. And I tell you, you get like this adrenaline rush when you know that you've got them and they're wrong, and it just, there's a big adrenaline rush for it. So I had kind of been toying around. I really was thinking about, I wanted to become a state hearing officer.
Okay.
Like I said, those are where you have like your appeal rights to the state level when the individual, the applicant, disagrees with what the agency's doing and their actions. So I thought, you know what, I'd like to be a hearing officer. I really enjoyed the actual rules and regulations of Medicaid, and but it was tough, and I did know some of the hearing officers since I'd been doing this for so long, and a caseworker. So I even called some of my people I tried to network, and but you also know that that was the time that the economy was like,
Took a giant poop.
yeah. So, and then the one time I saw in there that one of the qualifications was being admitted to the bar to become a state hearing officer. So that even kind of got me thinking, well, it just so happens a good friend of mine at Job and Family Services, her daughter-in-law was in law school. Got to talking, and then it's like, what exactly is involved in going to law school? So she started getting me some information and started thinking about it a little bit more. And actually, one of the days I was at the copy machine, and there was this picture above the copier with this boat way out in the middle of the ocean, and it says, "Don't wait for your ship to come," or what? How does it say? Oh shit! Don't wait for your ship to come in, swim out to it, or something to that effect.
Right.
So and it's like, you know what? Maybe that I'm tired of sitting here waiting for something to happen.
Let's go swimming.
That's kind of what I thought. You know what? And that's when I really started investigating law school.
Okay. So then you end up in 2011, right?
Yeah.
You go to Ohio Northern.
Yes.
Which we are fellow
Yes.
polar bears.
Polar bears.
Graduated 01 with my undergraduate degree. So what made you pick Ohio Northern? I mean, there's the Marshall Law School up at Cleveland State. There's all kinds. There's really good law schools.
There's a lot of them, and I did get accepted to a few of them. I mean, first of all, they offered me a great scholarship, but I think one of the things I enjoyed most is when I went for my visit, they hooked me up with a current non-traditional law school student. Took me to lunch, and she was telling me how great all of the professors are, their open door policies. You have a question or anything, you're having trouble with something, they welcome you to come into their office. Even she said the students and the staff, everybody was just so friendly, and so that really kind of made me feel good that and I like the fact that it was a smaller town, smaller community. My husband and I decided that we were going to actually move there.
Oh, wow. So you guys moved there for 3 years.
We did move there for 3 years. We found a little farmhouse to rent. And
so now when you had lunch, did that non-traditional student, because anybody who doesn't go into law school right after college is considered non-traditional.
Right, yeah.
Did she take you to Mac?
She did. Lunch? She did. Yes.
I'm gonna confess something, and Sandy, my mom, will attest to this. I may or may not have taken some silverware from the Mac back in the day that had the really nice scripted ONU on the handles. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway.
That is so funny.
A lot of good
yes, and the Tundra, and
then
the Green Monster. And
now, see, the Green Monster was there when I was in school, but they hadn't built all those apartments yet.
Oh,
out
around
there, kind of around campus, and they hadn't started tearing down a lot of the fraternity houses in Fraternity Circle. Like the Phi Cap house was still there, but that got torn down after I left. I think the Sig Pi house got torn down. But anyway, this was a long time ago. It was almost 20 years ago.
Right, God, I know.
So you finish up at the Pettit College of Law.
Yes, you got it.
I got it. Mimi got it, as Leroy would say. And you guys come back home.
Yes.
And you start practicing back home. And I guess the thing I want to get at is, with this particular section of it, is you took a chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think I think in today's climate, there are a lot of people who are scared of that. You said I'm in midlife, right?
Yes.
To hell with it. I'm going to throw caution to the wind. You looked at your husband and said, hey, honey, I love you, but we're moving to Ada. And
Yeah,
he's probably like, where the f- is Ada?
right.
Where in the hell is Ada?
Well, actually, it started out as, honey, what do you think about me going to law school? And he kind of looked and it's like, well, I think that's a great idea. What does it take? And so then I'd already researched, it's 3 years, and then you got to take this bar exam, and you got to take the LSAT, which is the law school admission test.
Oh, yeah.
So I do kind of all of that whole process, and I have a very supportive husband that I can't believe how great he took all of this, and even when I was in law school, because there's a lot of hours there,
Oh, yeah.
and he pretty much did the cooking, the cleaning. I'd be back in my little room studying, and he'd knock on the door, dinner's ready, or he'd bring me, if I had late classes, he'd bring me something to eat at school, or
That's great.
yeah,
It sounds like you couldn't have pulled it off without him.
Absolutely not. No, I could not have done that without him.
So your husband's name, remind me, is?
Dwayne.
Dwayne, big shout out.
Dwayne, yes.
Big shout out
to
Dwayne.
My loving husband.
Hopefully if you're watching this, Dwayne, a lot of love your way, pal, okay? A lot of love your way. So I wanted to tell this story so to kind of get people to understand that when they come in to talk to you, when it comes to elder care, right?
Right.
They're not just talking to some attorney or some lawyer. They're talking to somebody who I can say with 100% confidence after hearing your story, who gives a shit.
Absolutely.
Who cares with every ounce of her being.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I've been up nights thinking about different things, my clients, what they're going through, or how I can help them. I get, and I know they say you aren't supposed to, get personally involved, but there's been times it's really hard not to. You get to know these people and their families and listen to the stories and their history, and it kind of reminds me of, again, when I worked with Rob Neff, one of his clients was at the Battle of the Bulge, and I remember, because a lot of times I'd go to their house. They couldn't always, come in, and so I would just go to their house and listen to their stories and just their wisdom and knowledge and the things they've seen in their life. I just find fascinating, and I just feel like if I can kind of help them through this rough time in their life, there's nothing I can do. I'm not a medical expert by far, don't want to be, don't claim to be. And I guess even as a caseworker, that's one of the things I always felt bad is, here they come in and they're so emotional and upset because their loved one is in a nursing home. They've been through, who knows what medically, and possibly could have, almost lost them, or it looks like they're going to be going downhill. They've only got 6 months to live. The Alzheimer's, where they know eventually they're not even going to know their loved ones. Just those kinds of stories are so sad, and I just feel like if I can kind of relieve a little bit of this financial stress and worry, because there's so much misinformation out there. The Medicaid rules have changed a lot over the years. And so, just because your neighbor has this story, that's how it was with them, doesn't necessarily mean that applies to you. And like I said, they hear these horror stories. They're going to take your house, and, you're going to get left with nothing. And it's not exactly true. There's things that you can do. And depending on the situation, you may not have to be left with nothing. So,
well, let's talk about fun stuff.
Yes.
Let's talk about fun. So, when you're not helping your clients,
yes,
when you're not in whatever facet of the law, because you're not just solely on elder care, you also, you were talking about you had
the guardianship
case, and you do some criminal work. So,
I do some criminal.
While your heart and your passion is for elder care,
yes,
you're also able to do some other things.
Absolutely.
But what I really want to know is, so, Tani, when Tani's not, when Counselor Eyer is not in the office and she's not, in the practice of law, what do you like to do?
My husband and I just love to drive around the state on adventures with a lot of times no plan in mind. We love to we enjoy wine, so we enjoy going to wineries and just seeing different sites and especially historical places. So we're kind of nerdy that way.
That's okay. I'm really nerdy about all this stuff.
Right, the technology.
We all have our own nerdy. So this brings up a couple of great questions now. So you guys like to take some one-tank trips?
Yes.
Day trips, right?
Yes.
So the coolest place you've been in the last, well, all right, well, last summer. Let's say last summer.
A summer.
Okay, or the last, last year when we could actually go places.
Right.
Right. So like late spring to early fall, what were one or two of the coolest places you guys went to and why?
Actually one of the neatest places in the last year or so, we went to Chicago. Actually it was, and we didn't plan it this way. It just happened to be St. Patrick's weekend. Like I said, so we planned the trip more in like Christmas before that.
Okay.
I wanted to see Hamilton.
Oh yeah.
So bad. So that was kind of our Christmas. We're gonna go see Hamilton, and we were gonna go see it in Chicago, and we missed it on Broadway in New York, but the ticket prices were outrageous. Yeah. So Chicago is a little more reasonable.
Gotcha.
And so when we planned going there, we didn't even give it a thought that it happened to be St. Patrick's Day weekend.
Right.
But that actually, that I would recommend seeing Hamilton if you are at all interested in history. And I wish that they could show it to everybody in high school. I hated history in high school. It was so boring.
Guilty.
Yeah, and that the older I get, and I think if something like Hamilton, with the music and the rap and the whole story, it was really neat how they did it. But then we also had to take a tour. I've also kind of been fascinated with the whole gangster era, the Al Capone.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had to go see where was it Dillinger was shot there at the theater.
I don't know.
I'd have to look at my phone. I still have the pictures on it.
Don't worry about it. So Chicago was a fun
Chicago
trip.
is awesome.
And then what was the best one tank trip? Because like you leave and get home in one tank.
In one tank.
So what was the best one tank trip you guys took?
We went actually up through the Cuyahoga Falls National State Park and just drove around and sightseeing and hitting some wineries and beautiful area. Because we did that more in the fall and
when the leaves are turning.
It was
absolutely gorgeous.
Well, our anniversary's in October, so we just that was sort of our anniversary trip of just to drive around. Like I said, we just enjoy sightseeing and wineries.
Favorite winery that you've been to?
Oh goodness!
Any one that serves wine, I'm guessing.
Right, I was going to say I don't know that I really have a favorite. They're all so good. Just last weekend we thought, since things are starting to open up, but we're still being careful and social distancing, and so we knew there's some wineries that have outdoor seating, and so we ended up the Ugly Bunny over in.
Oh, I've heard of that Ugly Bunny.
Belleville?
It's over in that Mansfield, Loudonville.
Actually, I think it might even been just into Holmes County in that little corner. But so we kind of even drove. There was a Lincoln Highway somewhere over towards Worcester.
Yeah. Blue Barn Winery over in Worcester.
We've been there too. Yes.
There's another one in Troutman Vineyard.
Yes, that was just right down the road, I think. Yes.
I think you guys might have planned this.
Yeah.
And I really like it. Thank you.
Yeah, we did that last year. So,
so as things start to open up, like do you guys have a short list of things that you want to do as the state opens up? And or have you guys not even really thought about it? You just kind of get a wild burr up your butt.
That's kind of, we just take a day. Yeah, we don't really, my husband's never been much of a planner, which really was hard for me at first because I am very plan, organize, everything, and he's the spur of the moment. Pack your bags, we're going somewhere. Well, we might not come back tonight, so better pack a bag.
Yeah.
Go where? How do you just pick up and leave? And but he's gotten to be more spontaneity.
And I'm guessing though, being in the that you were in Job and Family Services, and you've been in the Medicaid.
You got it right.
But you've been in that Medicaid. You've been helping people in Medicaid. You've got to be very organized. You've got to be very detail oriented. You've got to have those qualities which serve you well, which prepared you to be a lawyer, because if you don't dot all your I's and cross all your T's, as a lawyer, you're kind of not in a good place.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear that.
Yeah. He's a good balance. So, but we've actually been working a lot on our house. Might be good that this kind of COVID thing has made us stay home, because we're getting a lot of work done on. We've been remodeling our entire house one room at a time, and pretty much all ourselves. And so, plus we have an acre and a half then to take care of. So it's a lot of work at home to do. So
Absolutely.
we're getting that done.
Good. All right. So we're gonna play a little game.
Oh, okay.
This is new.
New. Oh,
this
no.
This is brand new. Okay.
I'm nervous.
So this I started doing my own podcast, just me. It's called Utterly Random. So if I have some utterly random, and it's not spelled UTTREL, it's udder, like
the cow's udder. Cow's udder.
And in fact,
utterly.
the logo for it is the udder of a cow. It's hysterical.
I love it.
But what I do is I found some apps, right?
Okay.
And the one is called Know Me Better.
Oh.
Okay?
All right.
So, and it's just going to be a random question, okay? And the very first one that came up, use 3 words to describe yourself.
3 words to describe myself.
Didn't see this one coming.
Wow, no. Well, organized, caring. Oh, goodness. That's really hard.
That's a bit of a challenge. You weren't expecting
really
this.
Hard.
You
No.
This
is. I guess I'm a bit of a gambler. Apparently, I never thought I mean, I don't. As far as going gambling in Vegas, I'm not that way, but I maybe more of a risk taker.
There you go. You're more.
I'm
of
a risk taker. Yes, I'll say a risk taker.
I like that. Okay. So people who are watching this the first time, maybe they're just meeting you for the first time. Mm-hmm. We're kind of getting to the end of our time here. So what do you want people to remember about you who are maybe watching this for the first time, getting to know Tani Eyer, the person, versus Tani Eyer, the lawyer? What do you want people to remember the most about you?
I give my all to everything I do. I think that was sort of how I was raised. I don't do things half-assed. I like I said, I care about my clients, and I do everything I can for them. And I fight for my clients, whether it's, for their Medicaid or my criminal or guardianships. I mean, I do the best I can.
Good deal. Well, Tani, this has been really fun.
This is fun.
This has been really fun. Just a little one-on-one getting to know you. So thank you for taking the time to do this today. It was fun.
Thank you.
Hopefully we can get you and Adam back together.
Yes.
And the 3 of us can kind of sit down and I can be the circus monkey.
There you go.
For the show. So, Tani, thank you again.
Thank you.
And listen, if you are listening to this on SoundCloud or you're watching it on Facebook, we'd love to hear your comments, your feedback, your thoughts. If you have questions for either Adam or Tani, ask away. If it's a question that they can't answer, they'll say.
Find it.
Well, but from a legal advice standpoint,
right.
If it's a question they can't answer because it may be seeking legal advice, you may just say, hey, why don't you call the office and set up an appointment?
That might be better.
Might be better in that case. But if it's something that they can't answer, I know that they'll do it.
Yes.
And we want to hear, do you like the video? Would you prefer audio? Do you want to see my ugly face anymore? Do you want to see more Tani, more Adam? What do you want? Right? This is about providing content for people.
Yes.
And what they want. So let us know. Like it, share it, tell your friends about it, and we'll be back soon. Hopefully, with another 2 beers.
2 beers, 2
lawyers. And the Circus Monkey podcast. Thanks, Tani.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.